Hello and welcome back to another OSET bikes tutorial with me, Oliver, and my brother Elliot. Today we're going to be going through how to ride up steps. Right, so the first technique that we're going to go through is how to hit the front in. Obviously what we're using here is a bit bigger than you'd start out with, but we're using this as it's a good size to show kind of the techniques and exaggerate the examples, if that makes sense. So with this wall, the first technique we're going to show is the front touch. You do this when the step isn't too big, so you can hit your front wheel into it, which compresses the front suspension and in turn brings the back wheel up. You need to be using a lot of body when you're pushing into it. Right, Elliot's going to show us how. As you can see, when you hit the front wheel in, the front suspension compressed, rebounded it and brought the whole bike up. To do this technique, you need to be using a lot of body, back, up to the bars and then throw the bike back through to get up to the top.
Right, here is how Oliver would do it. With Oliver you need to use a lot more strength and get as much power as you possibly can out of him. If you don't lift as much and exaggerate, like with the splatter, if you don't lift as much and you don't exaggerate, you're going to wreck your mum's wall and she will not be happy. Not happy. Yeah. We've taken the first layer of bricks out of our wall and she wasn't happy about that.
When you go to hit the front into stuff, you want your front wheel hitting around here. Higher or lower, doesn't matter, a couple of inches either way. But this way, when Elliot does it, if he was moving, his front wheel would hit into it, his suspension would compress front and rear, and it would shoot him up, using this to help the back wheel up. Because he's a bit smaller, he can't use his body quite as much as I can to lift, and he's just not as strong. When you go for the front touch, the first thing you want to do is throw your weight back onto the rear wheel to bring the front wheel up into a wheelie. Next thing is you want to be getting your body ready to hit the front wheel in, so brace almost. When you hit the front wheel in, you want to compress with the suspension and lift up. And as you'll see in the video, once you've lifted up, you want to be throwing the bike through. So almost keeping your body in the same position, but throwing your bike forward so your weight ends up at the back. The next technique we're going to talk about is the splatter. Now this is where you don't hit anything into the step but the rear wheel. On the OSETs you need a bit of a kicker, or you need to do extreme body movements to get the bike really steep. The thing with the splatter, if you go into it too shallow, you'll end up hitting the sump plate on and stopping you dead and destroying mum's wall. So what you want to do when you go for the splatter is get the bike up really steep, almost to the point where you're vertical, and then when your back wheel hits the wall, it will bring the front wheel back down and you'll be in control. This is really good for bigger walls and other things where you need to be going a bit quicker almost. Elliot's going to show us how. Elliot's using this ramp as a bit of a kicker to bring that front wheel up.
So with the splatter, what you'd rather do is, instead of it's a better thing when you need all of the speed out of the bike and you need to use a lot of body just to properly get it up there. It's the same with the yeah, I know, Mush, you're terrible. Yeah, so when you're going up it, I wish Oliver did it a bit nicer, but when you're going up it, you need to use quite a lot of thank you. Quite a lot of speed and a lot of your legs, every muscle in your body technically.